My avid followers from the beginning of this podcast knew it as pleasure seeking, named after my new book, The Magic of Pleasure Seeking. As soon as my book is available to pre-order, I'll announce it here. Now, speaking for the series Your Work and Finance Voice, today my guest is Jacqueline SCHADECK. Who is she? Well, she's a power-packed person. Every time I have to talk about money or finance, I get the hives. And this is a woman who makes it easy for us. She's a certified financial planner professional who partners with individuals and families to help them gain financial clarity. And heaven knows, people who are not number-oriented need that. She believes that people need comprehensive financial guidance in order to make the best decisions. Amen. And she has a passion for helping clients achieve financial success. There are so many things about her and awards, but I'd like her to come on and talk about them. Come on in. Jacqueline, thank you so much. Thank you for coming to visit us. And I know that you're in Atlanta, is that right? Yeah, so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you're 6 hours behind me in Rome. What's a nice girl like you doing in Atlanta? Are you originally from Atlanta?
I'm not originally from Atlanta. I've been here for about
Oh.
11 years now. I'm originally from
But that's a
Northern
long time,
California,
11
outside
years.
of. It is a long time, and it's so funny because people will say, "Oh, you're from that area now." Even though I wasn't born here, but I have been here for a while. I know the terrain pretty well, and we
Yes.
get our rainy days randomly throughout the whole year. So we're having one of those
But
today.
another thing, not only what's a nice girl like you doing in Atlanta, but what's a nice girl like you talking about finance, numbers. And I imagine it's not really talking about finance, is it? It's consultancy. Will you tell us exactly?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? So the same thing that brought me to Georgia from California is the same thing that brought me to financial planning. Quick story, I grew up on a 1,000-acre ranch in Northern California. And long story short, the property was sold out from under my family. And so at that time, my grandfather simultaneously passed, and therefore my mother and her sister each inherited $1.4 million. So they each inherited a little over, almost $3 million collectively. And they both ended up losing that money within about 4 years but in total. So I had a problem with that. I was asking a lot of
problem.
And nobody could answer my questions. And I had a problem with that part. So I became a certified financial planner so that I could answer questions that people have about their finances.
I didn't even know that
right?
existed as a profession. What do you have to do to get there? What is the Is it,
Mhm.
what department do you go to? It's economics, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a branch of that. So it's funny because financial planning is a
Right.
newer profession. It actually didn't come about until
Well, that's
1960s.
pretty long though,
So
60s,
it's,
you know? Um,
I mean, I guess when you
oh, right.
compare it
Of
to
course.
medicine
Sure.
or law or accounting, it's like, although those have been around for
Sure.
hundreds of years, and here's financial planning and it's new. And so with that, you can actually become a certified financial planner
Uh-huh.
with any bachelor's degree. You used to back in the day not need a bachelor's degree, but they changed that in the early 2000s. And so now if you have a bachelor's degree, you can pursue the certified financial
Uh-huh.
planner dezonation, which if you push really hard, like I did, you can get it done in about
Oh,
14
wow.
months.
You crunch.
And
You really
yes, it is about 14 months of studying very, very hard and then an 8-hour test at the
8.
end of that.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
But well,
whole
no,
day.
but you don't have to
A
write a
whole day.
paper or a big thesis or anything like that. It's just
Well, you have to
sure.
take the coursework for the CFP designation, and so you have to pass
Sure,
tests on
sure.
every course and quizzes and stuff, but no big paper
Well,
like a PhD.
look, what intrigued me about you actually, because when we were writing to each other, you put together two words, money and emotions, and that's fascinating to me. Because in my
Mhm.
world, money is also a language of love. There are people who have a language of touch and so forth. But money, what is your experience with that? Money and emotions.
The story of money and emotions is so vast, and it starts with the story of my mother really losing her inheritance. So I ended up writing the book Money Planning and Positivity in part because I
Oh
watched
my
her
God.
emotional journey follow very closely
Yes.
with her financial journey. It's really hard to watch somebody who has a lot of ups and downs that, follow their financial path. And so with that, I wanted to write a book to explain to people that having more money is not going to
Right.
bring you a better life. And so I share a lot of that in my book of like, okay, this is how you can get financially grounded, and this is how you can handle your emotions centered around money, and this is what the idea of having money is supposed to bring you. And unfortunately, all of that
Right.
doesn't just
Sure.
happen,
Sure.
that snap of your finger. I've had 8-figure clients who can't keep relationships, who struggle with their family relationships. So it
Okay. Now
doesn't
wait a
matter how
minute.
much money
I'm
you
going to
have,
stop
you
you
got to do most.
because let's see.
Mhm.
We're talking about your mother, and then you became who you became. Now we're fast forwarding. Let's take a case, a person, a woman or a man, you choose, and tell me a little about their relationship with money and emotions. What do you see? What do you see them? How they act?
It's so interesting because money is such a
Yes, like
taboo
sex,
topic.
actually.
Yes. So we like to place this label on people about what their value is as a human based on their income or their net worth. And that's really hard for me to watch people do. I get the question all the time in dating, like, oh, could you date somebody who, doesn't make 6 figures or isn't worth 8 figures? Can you date somebody like that? And I'm like,
Right.
that's not the question. Okay. The question is, can I stand
Yes.
this person? Right? Short digression, but taking let's take an example of a person who I had a client. His salary from his company that he owned was $1.2 million per year, and in his free time, he just would go out and spend all of that money on anybody he could because he was trying to fill a void of, not having these healthy relationships with other people and not having other
Okay.
hobbies outside of work. And so his hobby was just to go spend his money and to try to make
Right, but did
friends
he have
blowing his money.
did he
And
have an
we had to
emotional
curb that.
relation? Did he have a love relationship at the time? Uh-huh. Okay,
Not
so
that I
that
know
was a
of.
problem. That was a problem. And so how
Hmm.
did you work with that? I mean, what
Yeah.
did you do? Make him do 50 sit-ups right in front of you? I mean, take out the whip?
Well, isn't that how our jobs as financial planners turn into
Yes.
financial therapists, which is becoming a full designation itself to teach people how to talk to others about their money and the emotions with it, the
Yeah.
psychology of money. And so for me, I let them know, hey, this is
Right.
where the line is drawn. I'm here to help you with finances. And sometimes I do suggest
Yeah.
that people go see a therapist, and I have recommendations for therapists. I have recommendations for a grief therapy, for a grief therapy session with a woman who specializes specifically in people who are selling businesses or who have gone through divorce, or who have struggled with any kind of big separation kind of anxiety, because there's a certain grief there. And so I had one client who actually was selling his multi-million dollar company
Oh my God.
and was getting
Oh
divorced
God.
all in the
I'm
same.
feeling the pain.
It was a lot. Oh my goodness. It was so hard. It was so hard. And I tried to do as much as I could to, guide him on that path, but that's a
For
lot
any
for one
person.
person to
Let
handle.
me ask, if you don't mind
Yeah.
responding. Typically, let's take the case of this poor guy. How long do you typically work with someone? I'm sure it's different for everyone, and everybody has different timing. They're slower, they're faster, until they turn their session around, their life around. Do they come to you in spurts? Say they'll come to you for 3 months, they'll go away, they'll come back after 2 years because they have problems again. How does it work usually?
Yeah, so at my core, I'm a financial planner.
Right,
So a lot of the come and go is, more of the
right.
recommendation with your therapist. So most people have long-term relationships because
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually
All right, I
managing
get it.
assets for them. So, yep. But in terms of the financial planning and the conversation, sometimes that does ebb and flow. And somebody is speaking to me for, 2 or 3 months, very, very at a very high
Okay.
pace, and then it'll slow down. And that's kind of normal. As something happens in your life financially, you're dealing with either a financial trauma, or you've got some new money coming in, or something changes, that's a trigger point to work with a financial advisor. So it only makes sense that I would work with them more as something such as
Yeah.
retirement is approaching.
Jacqueline, have you ever thought of, because you work on your own, I mean, you have your own business, right? Have you ever thought of looking back and working for others? I mean, have you ever regretted taking this decision of branching out on your own?
Regret it? No, not really, because the financial advisory industry is
In what
very buttoned
sense?
up.
In what
It's
sense?
very professional. It's very professional, and it's hard to allow people to be themselves in that space. And so,
Okay.
especially women, I myself have had this experience, but a friend was telling me last week about how she used to have to
There you
breastfeed
go.
underneath her desk at work because she had
Oh,
no other option. And
ridiculous.
so our industry isn't really well suited to support women. It's a male dominated
White
industry, a
male.
white
Yeah.
male, 50,
Yeah.
50 years old and over, male dominated industry. And so the industry hasn't really been built for women, and it hasn't been built for young women. And so I'm trying to change that narrative, and it's hard to do
Of
inside of a
course.
company with
Of
all of their
course.
rules and structures. So why
Yeah,
not create
that's
your
true.
own?
But I mean, hats off to you. But let's take one step back. All right. So you're this, I'm going to call you a fixer, because in many ways you are money fixer. But do you work with people who have their own businesses? But do companies call you and have you come in and say analyze all of their structure, and try to see where the leaks are? Does that happen to you?
Sometimes, more so on the financial
What is
wellness
that?
side, where companies ask me to come and speak to
Ah,
their
okay.
employees. me to come in and speak to their employees to help relieve financial stress, to help them understand their 401k or any other investments that they need to be making so that they can retire on time is usually what the goal is.
So that is, I get that. That you called it the wellness. And you mean just their financial health? Is that what it's about?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's people who can be financially well, right? Or you can be more on the financially sick side. And so for people who are financially well, you're understanding what your cash flow is, right? You understand what you have coming in and what you have going out. And then you're striving to keep your expenses lower than your income so that we can start saving money. You know, so that's one of the pillars of financial health is purely just saving more and spending less. And I'm not talking about, you know, Dave Ramsey, real strict style, you know, don't spend any money at all. I still want you to be happy, healthy, loving your life, but I want us to do it in a responsible way so that when you are 65 and all of your friends are retiring, that you get to have a retirement party too.
Well, okay. So now I'm going to pull up the mirror. I'm going to ask you a question that you're not going to like. All right. So Jacqueline, Jacqueline, how is Jacqueline? Is she healthy financially? I mean, do you find that that you become ill, like eating too much chocolate, getting off, you know, going off the bandwagon, things like that financially at times? What does that translate into for you? Being, yeah.
Good question. Good question. So a lot of financial advisors have a lot of stories about things that they did wrong or things they saw, and that's how they got into advising. Well, I got into advising when I was 20 years old. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for mistakes, and I have honestly always been a very financially conscious person. So for me, I make my worst decisions since COVID has happened. I've kind of been shopping a little bit on Amazon.
I hear you.
I got a little Amazon happy, and I had a lot of things delivered, and I have more things than I really need.
I think that's a common problem.
For me, it's always right. And so for me, it's always a missed opportunity.
In what sense?
Is really a financial setback. So there's been tons of financial opportunities that have come across my desk, either private opportunities in different companies. For example, this tech company who creates batteries for cars, I had an opportunity to get in on the ground floor of them and they're building their company.
So
and
you mean
I passed on that opportunity. Just
or in what way? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But were you afraid?
So I had the opportunity to invest.
You didn't think about it, or you just didn't have time?
It was just an opportunity that I was like, oh, you know, it'll be there. It'll be another one. You know, I'll do something else. I'll come back to it, and just never got back to it.
There probably will be others.
You know, unfortunately, those.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Missed opportunity.
So let's see. I mean, do you? I imagine that you're the kind of woman who scares men who are not in finance. Is that true?
It's definitely a little intimidating. I picked up on that after a few years of dating. Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you're in a male-dominated environment, obviously. Are there any pros to that? Because we know the cons, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the pros I was sharing on another podcast is that men tend to have this battle, this testosterone battle, where they feel like they always have to outdo each other, especially when it comes to finances and investment opportunities and who's making the most money. And they always get very competitive in that space. And so what I've seen is I've had some of my clients let down their guard with me being their financial planner because they're like, oh, okay, it's a woman. You know, I don't have to be as competitive. We don't have to share, you know, figure out whose shoulders are more broad. So that's one advantage of being a woman in this space. Another advantage is a lot of us were taught things by
Right.
our mother, right? Or
Role
that's
models.
the idea, you grow up, she's there for you, she teaches you all the things. So a lot of us look to a mother kind of figure to teach us different things. And so in my case, I've had clients where, they're like, oh, I'm so much more comfortable working with a woman than I would be with a man.
That's very interesting.
Male and female who said that. Just relating it to actually having learned a lot from their mothers growing up. So that's also interesting and another strong point that we have.
All right, now it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going and I'm looking at other things that you had written to me. And one of the things is how to start investing with less than $500. And I thought, oh, is this magic? I mean, what is she talking about?
Yeah, we start calling technology magic these days.
Right.
Magic. So it's pretty simple. A lot of people are actually already investing through their company 401ks, and I'm overdue for my trip to Italy.
Good. We're waiting for you. Just come. The Colosseum is a 15-minute walk from my place. Yeah.
Oh, nice. They have friends in Florence, so they recommend to fly into Rome in the train to Florence. So I've been meaning to make that trip, but I haven't yet. And I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to hearing more about the financial structure in Italy. I don't think I can handle
that. I'm not. But, when you talk about the financial structure in Italy, I think you would be very surprised. You would be very surprised. You would have to talk to a banker, and I can help you with that. My family's in Tuscany, right outside of Florence, and my banker, the bank director, is a sweetheart. A sweetheart. His English is perfect, and it would be interesting to get in touch with him to talk about. He's very knowledgeable. Yeah, he's been to the best, best schools. Yeah, you would love that.
I need that.
Yeah.
I need that. Yeah, when I went to Australia, I had a family who lived in Colorado for 3 years. And so they were able to help me make, the similarities there. But as far as the financial structure here in the States, we have our 401k as the standard plan that most employers offer their employees so that they can save for retirement. So that's a really, really solid tool. And that's where most people start investing for their future. They don't actually know that's what's going on.
The first half of my life was spent in the United States. Okay. So I today have a company in the United States, so I don't get a 401k. So I'm really envious when somebody talks about their 401k. I just bank on Social Security in the future. Right. But, like you say, a lot of people don't know exactly how to exploit that. And so when you're talking about investing with less than 500, you're talking about using the 401k money. Is that? No.
Okay. So that's just a start. That's an easy start that people don't understand. They know that maybe $60 or $200 is getting deducted from their paycheck, but they don't realize where that money is going. So it's going into the 401k, and then your 401k should be invested, hopefully, right? So beyond that, you now can open up investment accounts and you can buy fractional shares, you can buy ETFs, you can buy mutual funds. All of these have opportunities for you to start investing with less than $500.
If you get, let's say, this is what a financial consultant, I'm calling you a financial, would tell, because it sounds like Chinese, to someone who's not in the business, but I can understand what you're saying. But don't you find that people are very reluctant to let it go, let the money go and invest? And how do you convince them?
That's a good question. Okay, so the best thing that I can do, and for those, you can't see, but you can hear, right? So when you have a really tightly closed fist and you're holding your money really, really tightly, you may kind of peek your knuckles apart so that a little bit of money can get out, right? So you can pay your bills, but you're holding the money so tightly that no new
Brava!
money can get in.
You're
Nothing can get in
good. You're
because
really good.
your hand is tight. So you've got to be able to open up your hand and
Yeah.
let some of the money flow. You ask me what what I look like financially naked,
Your open
essentially,
hands.
and for me, I reinvest a lot of money back
Well,
into
yeah,
my
that sounds
business.
smart.
If
Yeah.
you go look at the numbers, that's what I end up doing, right? Because I think that you yourself
Right.
are your
Sure.
biggest investment. You should be. But in order for you to, be able
Yeah.
to kind of peel things back and get started, and for those who feel really scared, you've got to start somewhere, and there's going to be a risk in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Investing is risky, but so
Not doing
is
it. Yeah.
staying in the same place
I'm
that you were in
laughing as
last
you're
year.
talking because there's an expression in Italian. There are different, regions, and notably, the Genovese people from Genova are sort of, stingy. They just don't like spending money. They say that the Genovese have short arms. Their arms just never get into their pockets to get the money out. They never pay for their friends. It was making me laugh when you were talking about the fist. Well, now that your
Mhm.
mother sees, is she still alive? Your mother, so she knows what
Mhm.
you're doing, and she knows what success you're having. What does she? Because you still look to your mom, obviously, right, for some kind of guidance. What's the narrative now between you? What does it sound like?
It's funny. It's funny. Only a few people ask
Few
this
people?
question.
Ah,
Not everybody asks
well,
this question.
I,
Yeah, it's
I'm not
usually like
like everybody
maybe
else.
two. No, you're not at all. So,
Yeah.
my mom
Mhm.
still struggles to this day. She still struggles financially. A lot of it has
Oh,
to
yeah.
do with mindset, because if you have, a mentality of never having more and never
Yeah.
having enough, and
Yeah.
you
Sure.
always live in this space of,
Yes.
just scarcity, that's just where you're
Yes.
going to live. And so, unfortunately, she still lives in that space, and she's really never recovered
Hmm.
from that loss.
Interesting. This is interesting. Uh, if she weren't your mother, all right, would she be a candidate for a therapist? Do you think? Right,
Like
because
to
of
go see
her
a
mindset
therapist.
in relation to money. I'm saying. Okay, there you go.
Absolutely.
There you go.
I think all people, I think all people need therapy, but
Amen.
especially those of us who've been through
Yeah, yeah,
traumatic
yeah.
situations.
Thank you so much for this, Jacqueline, because, like you said, the first thing, and I loved it when it came out of your mouth, you said, well, money is a very delicate topic. People just, it's taboo, like sex. It's even, people talk about sex, but money, you don't
Hmm.
ask people how much money they make. You don't ask them where their money comes from. That is really something that is left under wraps. And I love this idea where you just peel open everything, and you do it in such a playful way. I like it. I mean, you must be very successful. What does a great day look like in your life, in your work life, Jacqueline?
A
Yeah.
great day in my work life is usually a day full of half consultations,
Good.
because I'm getting to meet new people and helping them with their situation, and half working with clients that are
Okay.
already part of my book. So it's exciting
Right.
to add new people to the roster and get to change new philosophies and see
Yeah.
new net worths grow, not for the point of people having more money, but for the point of
Right.
the freedom that it brings them. I'm not always talking to
Sure.
people about retirement. Some people I'm talking to about, can I afford to
Yeah.
take a 2-year sabbatical? Can I afford to take 2 years off of
Yeah.
work, and come back? So it's always fun to have those conversations with people and to help them
Yeah.
reach that next level. There's a point in my career about 6 years in, I decided, I was like, you know what? I don't want to work with anybody that I wouldn't
Uh,
want to go
I
have lunch with,
very
that I
good.
wouldn't want to have a
Very good
meal with.
point.
You know, I only want to strive to help people who are really interested in changing their situation. You know, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about financial planning. And so that's a perfect day for me, is meeting new people and then
Well, I
helping
hope you
existing
have
clients.
all good days. I'm not going to ask about the bad days. I don't want to know about that. Well, I'm
Right.
going to extend that invitation. So when Jacqueline comes to Rome and goes to Tuscany, I will, have you meet Alessandro, and he'll be thrilled to talk, use his English and perfect English. Yeah, it would be great. Thank you so much for
That's
taking the
amazing.
time. I know
Thank
you're
you.
on a busy schedule today, and I appreciate it. I hope sometime we'll have the opportunity to talk again.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Sure
hope this was
was. It
helpful.
sure was. Bye bye.